What's up guys, this is Santec IT Solutions. In today's video I'm going to be showing you some command line basics on a Cisco router. I'm going to be using GNS3 to basically spin up a router real quick and run a few commands that might help you on your CCNA exam. You see our router's just booting up here, and another thing about using GNS3 I just want to point out is you see I'm in R1 with a pound symbol. That means it already started up right in exec mode, and normally a real router would boot up in a regular mode there with a and I'm going to show you the difference. You run a disable command to bring it back to your regular mode here, where your commands are limited. You don't have as much functionality here, and typically you need a password to get into your user exec mode, which is indicated with the pound symbol. Another thing is it's already labeled R1. Usually a router would just be called router, you know, if it's brand new, fresh out of the box. So just ran a show IP interface brief command, and I'm abbreviating commands, and I'll show you in a moment later on how you can change that. But the command line interface doesn't need, like, for example, I just type show ver, and it's really show version. So you see I'm highlighting to show you this is an important command you need to know to get important information on the operating system you're using and the type of router you're using, and also additional information. As you can see here, we have the CPU, how many interfaces, and of course the configuration registry mode you're in. So you need to know what those symbols mean too, and I'm going to cover a lot of these things in detail in other videos, but for now I'm just going to keep things very basic, very simple. It's just an introduction. So I want to show you IP interface brief again, and you see all our interfaces are unassigned, and you see the word interface completed itself. I hit the tab key to do that. So if you start typing part of a word and you hit tab, it will finish the word for you. In this case I use a question mark, space question mark, which is important to know the difference. This is like help. It shows you all the child commands under a particular command. So for example, show with question mark, all of these entire commands here belong, they would follow the word show, and these are all your different possibilities. So you see here, printers, privileges, those all start with the letters PR. So I'm going to do show PR question and without the space, and now you can see that it gives me all the possibilities with the letters PR. So I had printers, privilege, processes, protocols, things like that. If I do another show command here, I'll show you in a moment, show IP with a space question mark, again it just shows you all the commands that would follow the word IP. So now I'm going to go into configuration terminal mode, or abbreviated CompT, and this is where we could set up interfaces, and you do the bulk of your configurations here. So I'm just setting up a simple interface, giving it an IP. I'm doing serial interface number 2/0, putting in an IP, and I'll show you another trick with using the help function. It comes in very handy. If I put question mark, tells me what's supposed to follow. In this case it wants a subnet mask, so I'm going to put in a subnet mask. I'm going to type in no shut, which is abbreviation for no shutdown. This is what actually enables the interface and turns it on. Now I'm going to configure a loopback interface. So I've abbreviated L for loopback and 0 for the number of the interface. So these are virtual interfaces. You can give them any IP you want. You can use them for testing. You use them for a lot of different things. And I'm just simply going to type in the word exit, as you see, and then also the Control Z, which is that up arrow Z there. They do the same thing. It brings you back down to closer to the root, or whatever the previous mode you were in with the router. So now I'm showing a show IP interface brief again, just shows some configured interfaces, and now you can see the change. As before we had all unassigned, now we have the serial 2 and the loopback are configured. And now I'm going to show you another very important command for all new Cisco entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call yourself, Cisco enthusiasts rather, show history. This is an important command. So it by default it only shows you the last 10. So I'm going to do terminal history size, and I'm going to change it to 20. This will increase. Now if I do show history again, just to show you, it's only still just showing me 10. So this is still, the buffer and RAM is still remembering from the previous command. It's not going to just add any other commands that we may have done. Actually, in this case, it actually did. It did actually add a command. There's 11 there. I didn't count them, but there I see my show history command. So we only had run 11 commands at this point. If I had done more, so I'm going to just start running more commands. I just did a show flash. This is important to know how much memory is in your router. I'm going to do a show start, which shows the starting configuration. I'm doing a show run, which shows the running configuration. And I'm going to do a quick comparison of the difference between the two. In the show run, you can see I have the IP address there, the interface labeled, it's configured. Now if I go back up to the show start, you'll see there is no loopback interface there in my configuration because I haven't saved it to the start yet. So it's still basically everything is still running in NVRAM at this point, or just RAM rather. And if we back everything up, it will store it to the persistent memory. So if I do copy run start here, I'll show you. This is then it asks you where the destination. You just hit enter, and it will. Now I can do a show start, and you'll see the changes. You'll see the interface is now interface loopback 0 is there, IP address that I gave it before. So that's how you you can compare your startup to your run, and don't save your running configuration until you're absolutely certain, or always have a backup of your previous startup. In this case, we're running from a blank configuration, so there wasn't really anything here. So now I'm making a mistake. I'm actually typing in host name. I'm going to change the host name, but you see that this error message %sign invalid input detected. This is one of a few different error message types you'll get in a Cisco router, and it's important to know the difference of them and be familiar with them, especially for your CCNA. There might be a question about the different error messages that can be displayed. So now I'm going to configuration terminal, which is the correct place to change the host name. As you see, I changed it to my router, and now before the prompt the name is my router. So that is actually now in my startup config it still says hostname R1. Well, that's because I didn't save it, but in my running config you're going to see it as hostname my router 1, which is the new hostname that I just gave it. And I'm going to back up the configuration or save whatever right now, and you'll see that it'll change in the start config. And now we can do show history also, and we'll see there's a lot more commands there. So we've been running a lot of commands, and now we can see 20 of them, and that's how many. This is a little recap of everything we just did. Remember, the first things you usually want to run is show version and show flash, and show environment is another good one. To get familiar with the router you're not sure or have no specs on or don't have any documentation on. If you're in the field and you have to go into a router, it's good to know that information about it. The show environment I didn't do in this video simply because of the virtual router and there isn't any hardware. The show environment kind of gives you information on the fans and different things going on with the actual hardware of the router. So those won't work in GNS3 or any kind of virtualized environment. And I just like to usually demonstrate another thing. I'm going to just run a ping command, and a quick shortcut to keyboard shortcut to get out of any command is Control-Shift-6, and if you run that Control-Shift-6, that will actually cancel any command. So and I'll probably list a few of the shortcut keys. And as you can see here, I'm typing in terminal no editing. This disables all keyboard shortcut keys. So like that Control-Z command I showed you before, and also the Control-Shift-6, those won't really work with the when you turn off terminal, when you put in a terminal no editing command. But you can easily re-enable it by, I'm going to show you the command to change it back. You just type in terminal editing, and it re-enables it. So now I'm going to show you a couple other quick hotkeys. If you hit Control A, is what I'm doing here, it brings you back to the beginning of the line, and Control E will bring you to the front of the line. So you saw how the green cursor moved back and forth really fast, and there's our Control Z, which brings us back to a blank line. I type in exit, and I just want to show you disable again. It's usually always best to type that in when you're done with your router, just to take it out of exec mode, and it will require a password the next time somebody signs in or logs into the router. Alright, that concludes my video. Thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to check out my other videos.